Welcome to the Aesopians podcast, where the wisest in the channel come to get their MSP marketing insights. Today we're going to be talking about streamlining SEO content production and featuring Raj Khera of Make Media. Okay, welcome to the second episode of the Aesopians podcast. I'm here with our guest Raj, and he is the founder of Make Media. But I won't steal the show here, so I'm going to start it off with a kind of a first question. Raj, why don't you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Hunter, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And just want to share a little bit about who I am and what I do. My name is Raj Khera. I'm the founder of Make Media. It's a new company that helps companies, small B2B companies, make content very quickly just by talking through a guided interview. And it's not just video content, but it's really all about creating articles, LinkedIn posts, things that take a long time to write and write well. And we can do it very quickly, just in a matter of minutes through a guided dialogue. This is actually my fourth startup. I've built and sold three other companies prior to this, sold them to publicly traded companies. So I just couldn't sit around and watch the AI revolution just go by me. I think too much of an entrepreneur a juice in me to let that go by. So I wanted to start another company, and there we are.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting time to be in the tech sector and also in kind of the SEO game. And, we were talking a little bit in the pre-show, and you had mentioned that SEO was an important part of kind of, growing your previous businesses. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that and, kind of how the role of SEO in creating those businesses?
Yeah. So, when I was running one of my prior companies, I was looking at my financial dashboard and I was trying to figure out how I can increase revenue because I started to see things flatline. The moment you see your financials flatline, that's the precursor to them declining. So I'm looking at this dashboard. What can I do? What can I do? And I'm an engineer by training. At one point, I just stopped looking at my financial dashboard because it wasn't giving me as much information. I was like, well, what would another engineer do? And look at another dashboard. So I started looking at Google Search Console. And I noticed the specific keywords that people were using to find us, the places that they were finding us from, our top pages. And I got to thinking, well, geez, what if I optimize some of these and got found for other terms? So I started doing lots and lots of research on how you get ranked. And it turns out it's not rocket science. It's actually block and tackle activities. And so we started doing these various activities, posting very good educational content. And by the way, it's not just about posting content. There's lots of structure you need to put inside the article to get it found by Google. And so we started doing that, and we started seeing a big lift happen with inbound traffic coming in. We started getting lots of links pointing to us. Then we started adding a little bit of a PR mix, which is also a big part of SEO. And next thing you know, we started getting clients. And so that enabled me to grow all of my prior businesses actually uh, much faster and at a lower cost to acquire customer than if we were spending money on PPC or other traditional methods. Because when I started, we didn't have money to spend and I needed to figure out scrappy ways. So that's where I got into SEO, found it to be extremely effective.
Would you say that you kind of take an approach of, kind of create content, find the find the identity, kind of build up that critical mass of content, and then tend to kind of swoop back in and do some of the SEO stuff after the fact? Is that kind of
So
your approach?
yeah, the way I look at it is the first step is to actually do keyword research, and it's not just a matter of thinking, what kind of terms do I want to be found on? It's determining which terms make the most sense for your business that are not just informational intent terms, but also buying intent terms. So I'll give you an example. If you're a managed service provider, many of them, when I talk to managed service provider clients, they'll say, "Oh, I want to be found on the term data backup." And the thing is, that's actually the worst term you can get found on, because when you do a search on Google for the term data backup, you will find companies like Barracuda and like all the people that actually provide software for data backup. And that's not what an MSP does. They actually provide data backup services. Simply by altering the keyword you're pursuing to be data backup services. And I would say one step further, data backup services, Boca Raton, Florida. Something that's got your city name in it. If you optimize a page with those tweaks, suddenly you get found for people who actually want to buy data backup services in Boca Raton, Florida. And there's lots of other small nuances you could do. I was guiding one of my clients on how to do this, and literally, Hunter, in 2 weeks, he went from obscurity to page one of Google for data backup services for his city, and phone started ringing. I mean, he went from getting 0 clicks to like 20 clicks a day just from making that small a change. So the first step is keyword research. The second step is to create a content plan that addresses all stages of the buyer journey. Now, most people only want to talk to those who are ready to buy. That's probably 5% of the market at any given time. If, on the other hand, you started creating educational content about problems that people might be having, ways to think through those problems, um, checklists, guides, things like that, that starts to attract the other 95% who at any given time isn't even aware that they have a problem that they're trying to solve. But the fact that you've now pulled them into your orbit from this educational content, you can then nurture them along the way. So I know you recently posted on LinkedIn about how SEO is good to get people in, but then you can't stop there. You have to nurture the leads that you get. And that's where having this broad array of content really comes into play. So if you like, I can share an example of how a company might walk through the entire process.
Okay.
So yeah, so like let's say you've got an article about why data backup is important, or why cybersecurity is making a big impact on your business. Do you really need cybersecurity insurance? Things like that. Those are things that are not buying related terms, but are educational terms. If someone is out there in Google land, or even like AI land at this point, looking for that, and you come up as one of the answers, people start to go to your webpage, they read that information, they might then download a guide that you have. So on just about every educational page, you want to have a way for someone to reach out to you. And it's not just the contact us. If you have contact us as your only form of communication, or getting in touch, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. So what you want is something like download our guide on something, or download our checklist on something. So that increases the number of leads you get. Now, you know that this is an informational intent term. So the buyer journey is pre-sale. It's usually around 3 stages: awareness that you have a problem, consideration of the ways to solve the problem, and then decision making, like which company am I going to go with, which vendor am I going to go with. So everybody wants leads down here. But when you attract a lead here, what you can do once you capture their email is send them a follow-up saying, hey, thanks for downloading our checklist. What sparked your interest? And by the way, we've got a couple of other articles you might be interested in. And those other articles, you put one article that's in the consideration stage and one article that's in the evaluation stage in your newsletter for them to click on. So then you see if they click on one of those, that tells you that they might actually be farther along their buyer journey than the initial stage. They might be, oh, what are the things I should be asking a vendor? That's a buying intent type of article. And so when you've got an article published about that topic, now you have a sense of, oh, these people are clicking on my buying intent topics, and those are the ones I should probably reach out to. So it helps, if you when you do this at scale, it actually helps you know who to start calling versus someone who's much farther or much earlier in their journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's and when you kind of start building awareness and start reaching people more up in the funnel too, the sales conversations when they actually kind of do get down to the point where they're ready to talk to sales, when you've kind of hit them with, middle funnel sort of content offers and done some email nurture and things like that, the sales conversations become a lot easier and become a little bit
Yeah.
more about like what are the mechanics here? What's the cost rather than like,
Yeah.
all right, we, clicked 5 people in a bottom of funnel Google ad sort of situation. Like, you know, it, now you have to compete like a Hunger Games situation to win our business versus 5 other people. It's more of like, well, we've been following you for, a long time and we're happy with what you have to say. You've been educating us all along. So how do we get started?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that having content all along those stages is key, like you said. And it's the 80-20% of leads if you're hoping for those first touch direct conversions on like a contact us versus those offers up the funnel a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And in fact, I think one of the benefits of having such a wide range of content is that you get to capture people in all different stages of the buyer journey, bring them into your, like I mentioned, bring them into your orbit, and then like the nurture is so critical. I have had people 2 years after they joined my list say, "Hey, Raj, I've been getting your newsletter for 2 years right now. I'm ready. Let's get started." And the sale is so fast. And I didn't even know who these people were because they were on my list. I never had any interaction with them. But it happens so frequently. So having a newsletter, so critical. I know that's something you help clients with. And then having lots of educational content. That's actually the reason we created Make Media, is because creating all this content seems like climbing Mount Everest. I mean, oh my gosh, how much time it takes to write good content. Um, the reason we actually built Make Media was because uh, I know the pain it takes. I'm a pretty good writer. It takes me about 4 to 6 hours to write a pretty decent article. And if I'm writing a guide, that might be 2 solid days of work. Who's got that kind of time? But on the
And
other
that's not
hand,
even factoring in creating graphics, editing those in Photoshop, any
yeah.
and other ancillary activities just off the writing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
right. That's just the writing. And then you got to sprinkle the SEO, I call it SEO pixie dust, SEO fairy dust, to make sure that Google can actually find you. So there's structures around where you embed the keywords, headings, body text, alt tags within the images, internal, external links. There's lots of things that go, putting an author note on the bottom. There's lots of things that go into SEO. So what we were looking at is, hey, I know I don't have the time to do all the writing, and I kind of enjoy writing. There's a lot of people who don't enjoy writing. They know they need to do it, but if I asked them to write something, I'd be waiting weeks, months, a year. They'd probably never even get to it. But if I said, "Hey, can I have a conversation with you about this specific topic? Um, why cybersecurity is really important for even small restaurants?" Okay, if you happen to target that, so somebody could talk about that off the top of their head because they're subject matter experts, and all they need is someone to ask them the right questions. So what Make Media does is it actually comes up with a list of questions, even gives you recommended talking points on what you could say, and you just look at the question and you just talk. You click a button, start talking, and it records your conversation, and it transforms that conversation into an SEO friendly article that's ready to go. So instead of spending 4 to 6 hours, you're really spending about 10, 15 minutes in a conversation, in a guided conversation. And we're seeing so much traction for this. We're in beta right now. We're going to be releasing it live to the public in February of 2025. And but so if anybody wants to try beta, it's free. Just go to makemedia.ai and just click the try it free button to like sign up. And the beta users have been getting on page one within weeks of creating content. It just makes content production so much easier. So when you think about the buyer journey and creating content for different stages, just being able to talk through an interview makes creating content very easy. And the other thing is, well, what are the articles that should be in each stage of that buyer journey? So a new feature we're about to release is a content plan creator, and it will give you 50, 60 articles that will resonate with what you think your audience wants to know about. You just click a button, have a conversation, and you'll have that article. And the other cool part is it actually creates LinkedIn posts. So you can then stick posts online and really start building your brand and expanding your reach. It makes it so that you can have a marketing assistant, a content marketing assistant. And we're finding that companies who actually have a marketing person on staff, and we're also finding agencies loving this because it just helps them create so much more for the same amount of money than they were before.
Yeah, and I got a little demo of the product, I think a couple weeks ago, and I liked that you could kind of set up a target ICP, and so you can kind of talk about, whatever the subject at hand is, and the Make Media product would kind of tune that to speak more directly to the ICP as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And we have a buyer's persona creator that's built into the tool as well. So if you know that you want to target uh, like small accounting company and you want to talk to the CEO of that small accounting company, we can actually create a very detailed buyer persona that tells you what their pain points are, ways to message them, words that resonate with them, and that's part of the tool. It comes with a buyer persona builder, and you can create as many personas as you'd like, because when you create content that's generic, that tries to reach everybody, you really reach nobody. But if you wrote an article about cybersecurity for small accounting firms, boy, it's an accounting firm that's like kind of aware that that's an article that will resonate with them. It might be very similar in topic, but their word choice will be different. Their issues will be different. Like, for example, if you're doing cybersecurity for healthcare, you want to talk about HIPAA, patient data security, those kind of things. Whereas if you're talking to an accounting firm, they're talking about client data, financials, taxes. So those small nuances make a big difference in one, getting found on Google for proper SEO terms, but also for having the content resonate with your audience. So generic content, not good. Very focused content, very good. So
absolutely.
yeah.
All right, yeah. So the tool is very good at kind of streamlining the creation of content production. Like you
Mhm.
said, it can take you 4 to 6 hours, and you've, got the wheels greased. You're a well-oiled rider. You can, be
Right.
very efficient with your time in creating that content. A less experienced writer or somebody who's not as, well versed at kind of creating SEO content, that could be an 8 to 12 hour process to create, quality,
Yep.
content. So, taking that process from 8 to 12 hours, down to, 15 to 30 minutes once you've got the tool configured by just having that conversation, is a,
Yeah.
powerful asset that allows, brands to be more nimble in the marketplace and, really accelerate, the creation of an online marketing program.
Yeah, yeah, we're finding that to really help them accelerate their brand footprint and do marketing that they sort of, wished that they were able to do. And when you think about what's on someone's website, for the most part, let me just go back to the MSP example again. If you look at most MSP's website, it's all about them. It's all about their services, their clients, their products, the tools that they offer. And there's not as much education about trending topics. I mean, like every 2 weeks, we hear about some major security breach. So if an MSP were to be able to talk about that breach and what it means in the broader scheme, or what it might mean to their client base, just that touch point alone builds uh, in prospects' minds. It builds their view of you as an expert. And when you think about it, who do we buy from? We buy from people we trust, and the way to build that trust is not talking about, thumping your chest, hey, look at all the stuff we do. It's showing them, saying, oh, here's why you should be aware of this. And here are a couple of things that you should do to make sure that you don't get attacked. For example, we can help you with doing a penetration test, and then like talk about why that's important, as opposed to, yeah, we do penetration testing. And so those small things make a big difference.
Yeah, and the pace of change with technology too. I'm sure you've kind of encountered this and building and kind of selling multiple businesses. Is if you're just not moving fast enough, you're not keeping up with the kind of pace of change. Because when you create content and kind of launch an SEO program, like content has a shelf life. So you need to be able to
Yeah.
move quickly and be able to create those quality outputs. And be able to go also refresh old content. So, if you're relying completely on manual process with, the pace of change in today's world, it just becomes kind of difficult to manage that portfolio of content assets. And refreshing old content is such a great way to, boost rankings and get like, your traffic momentum.
That's right. That's right. And I'll share with you one of the biggest SEO tips that I have, and that is when you write an article, oftentimes people, they tell you to put links in the article that point back to your old articles. What you really want to do is go to your older articles, refresh those by putting links from the older articles to the new ones. That's something that so few people do. And the reason you want to do that is because those older articles are already indexed by Google. And so when Google sees an update to that, it will follow the link and find your new article. I mean, that'll show up in your site index, so it'll find it anyway. But when it sees an additional link pointing to it, Google starts to recognize that as, oh, here's something new. And then it'll scan it for the keywords that it thinks you're ranking for. And then it'll put you in the index. And that actually helps. Just old articles pointing to some of your newer articles. Such a small thing to do, often overlooked.
Yeah, like a freshness rating could be like a
Yeah.
potential piece of the algorithm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we've all encountered articles where you see something that says update, and then they put a date, and then they just talk about something new that happened. The rest of the article might be the same. So small things like that, Google recognizes as well. So when you are current and it's a trending topic, that just talking about it can make a big impact on your reach.
Yeah, awesome. So are you using any other kind of key tools in your, SEO portfolio to help kind of create content, for your previous businesses or your current one?
Yeah, so I can tell you what we have in our tool stack. So first thing is a keyword research tool. I personally use SEMrush. Ahrefs is also a good one. There's some cheaper ones like Ubersuggest, SpyFu is a good one. A keyword research tool is also good. If you don't have the budget for a keyword research tool, you can actually do a lot of it on Google for free. Here's how. Go to Google and start typing in a term, and it starts suggesting terms to you. We've all seen that happen. So their auto suggest feature. Well, they're not just randomly suggesting terms. They're doing that based on data that they know other people have searched on. So that's one way to find other potential terms that you want to get ranked on. Another thing you can do is go do a full search in Google, go to the results page, and you'll see something that says people also asked.
Mm,
Now, each of those, like it starts with 3 or 4 questions that people also asked. If you write content that has what is a or how do something, that's a question, that is a higher chance of actually showing up as an answer in Google's people also asked rating. So that's one thing. Create content with questions in them, like an FAQ. So
mhm.
the trick here is when you see the people also ask thing, there's a right arrow, arrow on the right side. And if you click it, it'll show you the answer. If you click it again, it retracts the answer, but it changes all of the other questions because it thinks, oh, you didn't get the answer you were looking for. So let me give you some other people also ask questions. So if you do that enough times, you're going to get this big list of things, questions, and you're going to look at it and say, oh, I could probably answer that question and that question. Well, use that and make content around those questions. And you have a pretty decent chance of getting into one of Google's responses. In fact, Google, with its AI answers, people are talking about, oh, SEO is dying. It is not dying. It's just evolving, just like everything else. Everything evolves. And so, what you do is Google used to have, well, they still have featured snippets. Well, what they're doing is some of their featured snippets are being replaced by their AI answers. It's almost the same thing. And so what you want is when you've got content like, what is cybersecurity? Why does cybersecurity matters? What are the things accounting companies need to know about cybersecurity? If you write questions, answers to questions like that, you have a good chance of actually getting ranked inside some of those AI answers. In fact, I have a case study just of myself. I wrote an article after doing some keyword research. I found a term that had moderate search volume, maybe 100, 200 searches a month, and very low keyword difficulty. Just a quick note on keyword difficulty. These tools come back with a number between 0 and 100. The lower the number, the easier it is to get ranked on. And if you find terms that have a keyword difficulty of, say, I don't know, 20 or less, there's a higher chance of you getting ranked on it. If you have a site that doesn't have a lot of traffic to begin with, look for terms that have a ranking difficulty of 10 or lower. And that gives you a much higher chance of getting ranked. So I found a couple of these terms. I'm starting to build up rankings for my new site, makemedia.ai. It's a brand new site, so I don't have any traffic coming into it. So I found a good term. I wrote a really long piece, probably about 2,500 words long. And I used Make Media to write it. So I just spoke for about 10, 15 minutes, created a great article for me, did some editing, probably about 15 minutes of editing, and I posted online within 18 hours. Within 18 hours, Hunter, it was ranked #1 on Google and was in their featured snippet. So, when you create content that's keyword rich, that's got all the tags structured, and that's what Make Media does. It automatically gives you an SEO ready article. Stick in a couple links and images, and you're done. So that's a great way to start expanding your footprint.
Awesome. And then just for kind of the, listeners' benefit here, you kind of touched on like featured snippets and AI overviews. Um, those things are things that allow you to kind of jump to the top of search results, even if you aren't ranking already #1. So those can
Mhm.
be, kind of useful way to get some visibility on the search engine results page.
That's right.
And those are based on like query context and, some other signals. So a lot of people are kind of pushing back on AI signals right now. But
Yeah.
for well-written content, they're a way to jump to the top and actually get some more visibility.
Yeah.
Um,
And so we were talking about the tech stack. So a keyword research tool, Make Media to create content. Then a couple other things like I use Canva for design. There's a free version of Canva, and then there's a paid version. The paid version, I think it averages to $10 a month, so like 120 a year. So it's very inexpensive, and it's like having a designer help you out. They have templates, very easy to create images with your logo on it, stuff like that. So that's
mhm.
one tool we use, and the other one is an email newsletter tool. So that's also pretty important because you want people who are visiting your site, they might not be ready to buy, especially if you're capturing that 95% that are in a different stage of the buyer journey compared to that last stage. You want to be able to reach them on a regular basis and then send newsletters. So when you create content, Make Media, it also creates LinkedIn posts for you. And it's important to get on LinkedIn. I know a lot of people hesitate for fear of either not knowing what to post, fear of being trolled. I've been trolled. I block trolls. I don't even respond back to them. So it's like it's just part of doing business, right? So just have a thicker skin. Don't worry about trolls. Someone's gonna, but start posting on LinkedIn. 2 years from now, you're gonna look back and say, I wish I started posting on LinkedIn 3 years ago, which is last year, right? So you really need to start now. And the key to posting on LinkedIn is to have a hook as your very first line. And the hook is designed to spark curiosity, and just get someone to say, "Oh, I kind of got to read the rest of the post," and then they'll click the see more and then see your post, and now you have engagement. And so you can have a fantastic post with such rich information, but if your hook is poor, people will miss it. So there's an art to writing hooks, and so we've actually embedded that inside Make Media as well. So when you do your 15-minute interview on a specific topic, it will create an article, but it will also create a handful of LinkedIn posts for you. You can pick and choose, you can use all of them and start posting, I would say at the minimum 2 times a week. And so that just keeps your name top of mind. So
Yeah,
that's the tool
absolutely.
stack.
And
That's the
and I
tech
think
stack. Yeah.
we originally connected on LinkedIn, so I know you've got some,
Right.
great stuff out there, and it will definitely open up opportunities for your business that are things you might not even think of.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, there's different types of posts. So I post almost daily. And so yes, we did connect on LinkedIn, and I liked your post. I think we had mutual appreciation for each other's posts. And so by the way, if anybody wants to connect with me, just type in Raj Khera. I'm gonna be the first one that pops up. There's not too many Raj Kheras in the world. So uh, that's part of my own brand building, I guess. And I'm happy to connect. And if you just mention Hunter's podcast, you can actually just connect with me just so I have context, because I do get a lot of people wanting to connect with me and then they try to sell me. and so I try to avoid those. But let me know. I'm happy to connect. And I know that yeah, the types of posts that resonate, people love learning about your journey. So I'm talking about all the pitfalls we're making. So I've got this series I post once or twice a week as part of my posts. I call it Startup Diary. And I talk about every mistake I'm making. Now, this is like my fourth startup. So, I'm probably on the older side of my career, second half, maybe second last quarter. I'm not sure. I keep coming back for more. I love building businesses. And so I share tips. Even now I'm stepping in potholes. And so I share what I do wrong, what miscalculations I make. Those posts get a tremendous amount of engagement. And I think part of it's because you're vulnerable and you're open to just having someone say, "Hey, I made a mistake. Here's what I did." And people share, "Oh yeah, I tried that once." And so we get a lot of engagement on those. Other posts are just personal stories. Like uh, I remember when I started my first business, I was I actually proposed to my then girlfriend, now wife, for almost 30 years. And we I proposed to her and I quit my full-time job the same weekend and came back from our honeymoon about a year later. The bank account's overdrawn. It's like, oh my gosh, how we get. So, I just shared that story, and people like hearing about, because you're human. We're all human, and so sharing stories, personal stories, also work very well. And then, of course, educational tips. Those are really important. Those ones get less engagement, fewer likes, fewer opens, fewer views, but those ones result in clients. And so you want to post a mix of that type of content. That's why I post every day. It gives me the opportunity to share all kinds of content. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know you've been a big advocate of stories, and I think one of the things I really liked about the Make Media product was that it created very natural looking content because, stuff that really hooks readers in and kind of increases some, hacky SEO metrics like dwell time and things like that
Mhm.
of people reading your posts are those stories. Like,
Yeah.
people don't necessarily always need to be explained everything. They come to the blogs and actually engage with the blogs because of those stories and that context that you as the writer can provide. And that was one thing I really loved about the Make Media product was that it since it is a taking audio and translating that into blog sort of formats and SEO content sort of formats is that storytelling really comes through very well and looks very natural, whereas many other AI SEO tools have a very rigid like
Mhm.
couple sentences, three bullet points, couple sentences, three bullet points, and it just
Yeah.
looks like AI
Yeah.
content like right out the gate.
That's right. In fact, we test our content against AI detectors, and our content comes out human written almost all of the time. And so, like, I just did an article a couple of days ago. I had 20 minutes before I had to run to my next meeting. I'm like, oh, let me just do an article. So I just talked for like 10, 15 minutes. And it was a 2,500 word article. I'm just about to polish it up and put it online in the next couple of days. And I tested it against AI detectors. And that you usually come back with some percentage it thinks it's AI. And this one came back with like 4% or something, which is well within the human range. For perspective, I have tested content that I know I wrote 100%, and I put that through AI detectors, and that even comes out as 25% written by AI. So you can't trust the detectors totally. If you do get something that's over, say, about 50, 60% that it says is AI written, then there's a good chance that Google will just say, "Oh yeah, yeah, it is AI written. We're not gonna publish it." And that's what happens when people use just AI tools, just pretty much without any kind of human intervention to write content for them. Like if you want to write a content on, data backup services, Boca Raton, Florida, and you had ChatGPT write something, it's going to be the same generic type of content that it sees, Google will see for every other type of company, just a few different words. Google's got what, 10,000 PhDs? They can figure out when you're using AI. They won't say it, but they can figure it out, right? So the one thing that none of these tools has is stories. When you say stories, and include those into your content, Google is like, whoa, wait a minute. Haven't seen that one before. That suddenly makes your content very unique. That's original content, not just regurgitated. This person talking about cybersecurity the same way the other person is. Stories. And every one of us has stories because we have clients. You can just talk about experiences you've had. So when I first built Make Media, I wanted to create an article. It was a guide on a CEO's guide to content marketing. I knew that was a good keyword for me to pursue. And I just talked story after story about how I had used content marketing in my past companies to build them up to the point that public firms wanted to buy them, and we eventually sold them. And so that is ranked number one or two on any given day on Google right now. Like if you went to Google right now and type CEO's Guide to Content Marketing, you'll find the Make Media article that I had. And it took me about 30 minutes to write. Uh, and maybe another, I think it was like 30 minutes to talk because I did a really long interview. I so many stories I shared. and another 30 minutes to polish it. So about an hour, which normally would have taken me, that's a 2-day article. It's like over 3,000 words long. Got great LinkedIn posts out of it. And that one's getting good engagement. And that's actually generating leads for us because people are searching that term. Not paying for ads. It's there. It's ranked. It's going to stay there because it's a really rich piece of content. And every time I publish something new, I sometimes go back to the old article to get my new articles ranked, and then I point to the old one too. So a lot of little things you can do that really just jack up your rankings.
Yeah, that's awesome. And sometimes when you're writing too, like kind of recalling a story, like you recall the story faster than the fingers can type. So then you almost like
Yeah.
lose what your train of thought. And sometimes it
Yeah.
can really be a little bit of a challenge to get those stories out. So to, have that audio format and that just be able to talk them out as they're kind of, coming out of your mind is almost makes it easier to kind of, turn that into a written piece of content, which
That's
is cool.
right. Yeah. And interesting, in our beta tests, we found that there were some executives who got stuck in what to say. So we added a new button called "What should I say?" So if you click that button, it'll actually give you recommended talking points and even start with some examples. You could literally read those examples, and that will instantly spark stories that you'll remember from client work that you've done. And then you can just pause for a second and just start talking about that story. And we capture all of that and then turn it into a really nice article. And the really cool part is it knows the stories when it creates LinkedIn posts for you. So oftentimes you'll find that your stories are embedded in those LinkedIn posts, which are much more engaging than just generic stuff. So
Awesome.
so yeah. So there's a line I used to tell my staff over and over. I didn't come up with a line, but I use it all the time. Facts tell, stories sell.
I like that.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So you've got this content. I did want to touch on kind of, one other thing. Your More Business website has accrued a pretty good number of backlinks over the years. I saw it had 4.1 thousand referring domains.
Mhm.
Are you doing anything specific to kind of build backlinks to the businesses that you've worked with in the past, or is that organically kind of grown backlinks?
Those were organically grown, and it's because the content on our morebusiness.com site is pretty solid, and we've got a handful of sample business plans that people can download. I even have a sample MSP business plan, sample MSP marketing plan people can download and use right away. So when people see really rich content like this, they automatically start putting links to you. Now, it was easier to do in the earlier days, getting inbound links. It's a little harder to do now. Here's a technique that many companies can use now. If you happen to be running a SaaS business, or even if you're a managed service provider, there's a good chance you've got access to some sort of data. And if you take your data from client usage of your products or something that you can somehow access and aggregate it, you don't want to reveal client data, but if you aggregate it and came out with some sort of metrics report that says, oh, the average, this is something like, give an example. When I was running one of my company's mailer, we came out with this report called the email marketing metrics report. Nothing had been out there before we started producing it, and we were sending 1 billion emails a year on behalf of our clients. I said to my engineers one day, hey, can we just collect data on what an average open rate is, bounce rate, click rate, and so on? They're like, oh yeah, that should be pretty easy to put together. And we created this beautiful looking metrics report. I had a designer make pretty pictures and charts and graphs, and we released it. We got so much traffic from that report and so many inbound links because people saw that as value. And then we would even do things like contact bloggers and just let them know about the report. Hey, would you like a pre-release copy? It's going to come out on Monday. You can look at it for a week and then, embargoed, which means hold off on talking about it till Monday. And we reached out to about 20, 30 bloggers. And I think about 15 of them responded, yeah, we'd be interested. So we sent them a pre-release copy of the report. Suddenly, that Monday, which we just randomly picked as a release date, we had so many inbound links. When that happens in a concentrated period of time, Google goes, hey, what's going on? And they started ranking us faster. So all the content we started publishing after we did that activity started getting ranked so much faster. So it was a way of tying traditional PR with SEO. And I mean, at one point, I think we were getting about 300 to 400 people per day visiting our pages. And so, of course, we're putting in like pop-ups and slider lead capture. We started getting like thousands of leads a month. So lots of cool ways you can create content. So yeah,
Yeah, I think industry research like that is one of the best like ways to create
yeah,
lead magnets. So
yeah.
it's great for actually capturing emails because that's one of the things that people are most willing to hand over,
Hmm.
real emails for. But then it's also like really link-worthy content. So can help. And going viral even one time in an SEO sense can, do wonders for your business in terms of
Yeah,
SEO and organic traffic generation, because
yeah.
those links create a real snowball effect.
Yeah.
Um,
And so just to share a couple of follow-ups that people can do. So, okay, let's say you do something like this, you get a bunch of people, you get lead capture, you got leads, what do you do with them? So the first thing to do is within a day, and timing is really important because I mean, when you think about it, I don't even remember what I signed up for 3 days ago. So don't wait. Like literally the next day, send them a follow-up saying, "Hey, thanks for downloading the support. What sparked your interest?" Another way of phrasing it is, hey, when people download the report, they often have a few other questions like blah, blah, blah. Does any of these resonate with you? So you're approaching them in a warm, non-aggressive way. You're not selling them right away. You're just trying to spark a conversation. And so not everybody's going to respond, but those who do are like, yeah, actually, we were interested in this kind of thing. Can we have a dialogue about it? Sure. So next thing you know, you've actually started meaningful conversations with qualified prospects who see you as a trusted source because you published educational content, not just, hey, look at me and all the stuff we do. Very different.
yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing those insights. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to kind of tell the audience here?
Well, if anybody's interested in trying out Make Media, just go to makemedia.ai, click on try it free, and you'll be able to check out, how the tool works, create articles, and set up a time with me if you want a one-on-one demo or conversation. And by the way, I also publish lots of educational information on, we talked about finding each other on LinkedIn. I do daily posts, and it's all educational. I don't sell on LinkedIn. I just share ways to grow a business. And so please, follow and engage. And I always respond back when I get an email, as long as you're not trying to sell me something at first. I think a lot of people get turned off by that, but just like send me a note saying, "Hey, saw you on Hunter's podcast," and love to engage.
Yep, and we'll definitely get links to Raj's LinkedIn profile, Make Media, and all the other juicy links in the show notes. So be sure to check those out. All right, well, thanks, Raj, for coming on the show. It was a pleasure to have you, and thank you again for sharing all your insights.
Thank you, Hunter. Thank you for the opportunity. We'll talk soon on LinkedIn.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
I hope you liked the episode. Thanks for listening. Raj is an interesting guy with a lot of great insights, so definitely give him a follow on LinkedIn and check out his product, Make Media, which can help you streamline your B2B SEO content creation efforts. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast here because we have all sorts of exciting new guests on the way. I'm Hunter Nelson with Tortoise and Hare Software, and thanks for watching.